really interesting fight, Matt, at featherweight between Canada's own, Quebec's own, Charles Jourdain. We're talking Jourdain. And Matt, a lot of people really high on him from his win over Doo-Ho Choi over in Korea. I mean, you had the hometown guy, Choi, fighting actually at home in Busan. And Charles Jourdain went out there and finished him. And it was an amazing win for him. Now, before that, a loss to Desmond Green up at 55. And Josh Culibao can certainly understand that from his last fight. Short notice UFC debut. He was taking on Jalen Turner. He got absolutely obliterated in that fight. I mean, the total strikes were 90 for Turner to 12 for Culibao. And Culibao was a featherweight. Really was. I mean, former Hex champ and Super Fight Series champ there in Australia. So he came in. You get the contract anyway, probably not going to win, and Turner was a much bigger fighter, much more adept in the striking. But Culibao, I mean, what can he do well? Really nice counters. He's decent off the back foot, and his footwork actually is quite good. We saw that more on the regional scene, obviously, than we did in his last time out. For Jourdain, in his last time, it was Andre Fili in a fight that he lost by split decision. It was close. I definitely saw it for Fili. I think I maybe had predicted Jourdain, but Fili put on a good account of himself. And you know when you get Andre Fili, you get a guy that's a Swiss Army knife, really well-rounded, and a guy that's represented Team Alpha Male for the longest time. And I remember the comments under that video. A lot of people were critical of Jourdain. He was in the States. He wasn't home in Canada. How, concentrated was he on his training? I can tell you this, and again, I don't look into the thirst trap that is Instagram because you never get the real picture. But Charles Jourdain before this fight looks like a picture of fitness, and he actually has been training in Quebec at Sherbatov Gym. You might know Yoni Sherbatov. It's his gym. And Jourdain's look great there. You know from his fight style that friggin' leg kick, holy smokes, his left leg is on fire. It's like and I've said it before in these predictions, it's like the overhand right from Chuck Liddell. It's like name your fighter and their signature move. Charles Jourdain, it's that back low kick. He can throw it low. He can throw it to the body. He can throw it to the head. So it's not necessarily a low kick. But his left leg is on fire. It's in fuego. And that's what you're going to get out of Jourdain. With Culibao, now that you get him at 45 in a full camp, you're going to get to see a more well-rounded fighter. I'm looking forward to this because I don't see it really going to the ground. What do you think about this one?
I think it's a fun fight, but I'm going to be honest, really let the cat out of the bag early. I don't know how Jourdain loses this fight. You're dealing with a guy who struggles with strikers in Culibao and struggles with strikers who have huge power, and that's what Jourdain does. Also, shout out, I think Jourdain, great nickname. I think it's kind of good, sort of creative, so check mark on that. But we saw in the Doo-Ho Choi fight, he got dropped early on in that fight, and you thought, oh, well, things are going to go from bad to worse. We know what Doo-Ho Choi brings. He's got great power, good boxing, you know the rest. And for him to really fight back in that fight, get up off the canvas, work his way back into it, and then not only beat, but to stop the Korean Superboy. Now, yes, he had been off for a little while. He had lost a couple in a row before that, but still, that's a guy who his skill level and his ceiling is quite high, I still believe. And for Jourdain, in his second UFC fight, to go to that man's hometown and knock him out is very impressive. So if you're able to do that, and then if you're able to fight to a close fight, and I agree with you, I didn't have him winning that Fili fight. It was a close fight, but I thought Fili had done enough to win it. So you're competitive with a guy like Andre Fili, and you beat a guy like Doo-Ho Choi. You're going to be able to beat a guy like Josh Culibao. I'm not bringing back my lock of the week because it always means that guy's going to lose. But this is as close to a lock as I'm willing to give on this card.
Yikes, Matt. You're going to get hate in the comments.
That's
pat
fine.
Yourself on the back. But, I mean, with Charles Jourdain, you're going to get people that are going to say, well, he lost to TJ Laramie on the regional scene. All right. Well, he beat Alex Morgan, who beat TJ Laramie twice. So there's that. I mean, those TKO fights don't mean a whole lot other than maybe some of the wins that you can accentuate. But you're fighting Desmond Green, circumstances around him now not great, but you're having a halfway competitive fight at 55. I know Green just took over with his wrestling in that one. Then you're knocking out Doo-Ho Choi at home in a big spot, and then you're losing a close fight to Andre Fili.
He's a young guy at 24. Like, he's younger than Craig, so he's going to get better between every single fight. He's going to improve constantly between every performance. So the version that we have already that has already beat Doo-Ho Choi and that has already fought a competitive fight with Fili is just going to keep on improving every fight.
So all of that shine to Jourdain, and if you have a look at Josh Culibao, I mean, he was finishing opponents on the regional scene. Decent records. I mean, Adolfo Marques at the time, 25-10-1, and I'm not going to go through the guys that he fought because they probably weren't all that great, but a lot of good wins. He switched up camps in the past. He used to be at Australian top team, Mokhtarian brothers from there. He's now with a different gym, and I went through and had a look at some of the training partners. With Igor MMA in Sydney. Jamie Mullerkey's one of the guys that he mainly trains with. You've seen him in the UFC. He's got a fight coming up. I know there's been a little bit of a Volkanovski connection as well, so that's interesting, especially in some of the lower weight classes. So, Volkanovski bouncing around, mainly a city kickboxing guy, but not a New Zealand guy. All that to say, this is where it gets kind of funky fresh because Jourdain opened the -300 favorite. That line dropped really quick, and he's one of the biggest favorites on this card at -450. Culibao open +250, now at a +335. Over on Tapology at a 739 votes, 88% going with the Canadian, 75% saying he's going to win this one by knockout. I think he's got a really good shot in this one. I'm not going to go as far as saying a knockout, and it's weird, seem to pick against the Canadians, being a Canadian, but I am going all in Quebec here, and c'est le but for Charles Jourdain here.
I agree. I think he is going to score a big win over Josh Culibao. It's just, when you look at them and match them up stylistically, Culibao is going to have a big problem with the power of Jourdain. I just think as the fight progresses too, Jourdain is a good case of a guy who has big power, but he doesn't really get tired as the fight goes on. He is able to keep that power somewhat late into the fight because he has such good cardio. So it should be a fun fight for as long as it lasts, but I do think Jourdain, and maybe even by stop, it should be a good fight.
Matt, nous allons aller avec le Canadien. We're going with Charles Jourdain to get the win. I'm really looking forward to this card. This fight should be good. You got Court McGee and Carlos Condit. You're not going to miss that one. And our extended look at the main event between Holm and Irena Aldana. Bantamweight bragging rights there. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.